Well, good morning to you, Gil Prescott.
Good morning to you, Adrian. Nice to see you again.
Nice to see you as well, sir. We did sort of rummage around through our brains the other day trying to work out how we first met. Did we come to a conclusion on that in the end?
I'm not sure that we did. It's a bit transient, isn't it, our business? So you're forever meeting people, and it is a strange business. It's one-off, isn't it, basically?
Well, I keep saying to you, and it must sound really weird when I say it because it's so irregular that we do talk to each other these days. But I do see you as a long lost friend. You actually you helped incredibly when I brought a Turkish player across to Macclesfield way back in time, and ever since then, every time I've met you, I've just thought, wow, what an incredibly fascinating chap.
Thank you very much. I mean, I love the Turkey itself. I love Turkish players, and I think the world's far wider than the UK. You know, there are lots of good players everywhere, Adrian.
Yeah. So just tell me, to people who haven't met Gil Prescott before, this is a very narrow question, but nevertheless one I'll ask just to start off with. If I was to try and put you in a pigeonhole, what is it you say to people that you actually do for a living?
I think the nearest to it is a professional football scout.
Professional football scout, yeah.
Basically, I've, as you know, done management, all kinds of virtually everything, but it's the thing I enjoy most, and it's the thing I think is most vital in football recruitment.
So tell us a bit. I mean, I'm fascinated by you, and there's not many people in life that I meet that have worked with so many different clubs, but work to the higher echelons of even being a manager of a national team for a country. Tell the world about what Gil Prescott has done in terms of his football career.
Oh, have you got 2 minutes? I mean, basically, I started off at 16, my first game in what would be senior football. I then played for Witton Albion when I was 17 in what would now be the National League. And I was signed by Manchester City then, and I played in their youth team in 1964. You know, that was before they had goalposts and things. And then I played in non-league for many years in both England and Wales. I went on into scouting while I was still playing, basically. I worked for Blackpool, and the list of managers, well, I'll give you the list. Bob Stokoe, Alan Brown, Harry Potts, Jimmy Meadows, Stan Turnant, who's still a personal friend, Alan Ball, who I played for his dad as well. I played for Alan Ball's dad at Nantwich. Sam Ellis, Jimmy Mullen and Billy Eyre, sadly no longer with us. I then went to Villa with Graham Taylor, who was assisted by John Ward. Sheffield United, where I worked with Jack Whittam, which was a massive pleasure. Jack Whittam's a great lad. And the managers there were Neil Warnock, who was ably assisted by Mick Jones. Gary Speed, sadly not with us anymore. Kevin Blackwell, John Carver. The CEO was Trevor Birch, who's just moved to Tottenham, and what a good lad to work with he was. Brilliant. And Carl Schieber was also the CEO there. I worked for Rangers under Jock Wallace. Plymouth Argyle, I was chief scout there for Bobby Saxton. Is Oldham Athletic with Ian Dowie and Tony Philliskirk. Great lad, Ian Dowie. He works hard at making people think he's daft, but believe me, he's an intelligent man. Really is. Love working with him. Blackburn Rovers with Tony Mowbray, Gary Bowyer, Brian Kidd. Macclesfield Town, as you know, with Sammy McElroy for 10 years. We were fortunate enough to win 15 trophies in those 10 years. We won the National League twice, and we also won the FA Trophy at Wembley. Promotion to League One in our first year in the Football League as well. We got an automatic promotion. Would you be interested in hearing about some of the players that we found over the years?
Well, I think, I mean, I have to say to start off with, I mean, wow, like just as I expected to say, I mean, that is a who's who of the football industry, and very, very impressive as well. Did you mention within that the national role that you did?
No, that was a bit later on at Saudi Arabia. it was 1990 stroke 91. It was quite an amusing time. Well, I wouldn't say amusing, but the Gulf War was still going on when I started. And obviously things were a little bit touchy-feely at the time. And some of the experiences there were just unbelievable. We were based in Jeddah, which is a lovely city, right on the Red Sea. And it was probably more cosmopolitan than the majority of Saudi Arabia at the time. But I enjoyed my time there. I learned Arabic, which I've lost now. I've not used it for 30 years, but I think it's essential to try and mix in with the culture that you're there. And they were good people. I enjoyed working with them.
And I didn't realise until you started going through that CV, Gil, that you mentioned Ian Dowie and Tony Philliskirk.
Yeah.
I'm thinking, even though our paths didn't cross on that occasion, you must have been working for Oldham Athletic at the same time that I was sent in there to save them. 2004, I got sent in to when they were in the height of their financial difficulties, and Ian was manager at that point before leaving.
I must have still been there. I mean, I left not reluctantly, because Sammy McRoy got the job at Stockport County, and as you know, I'd worked with Sammy for 10 years at Macclesfield, and he asked me to go as chief scout at Stockport. All I can say about Stockport, the staff throughout were brilliant. I really said to Sam, you've got a hell of a chance here. These people are top notch. But the guy who run the club was only interested in rugby union. I love rugby union, but not at the expense of my football. And they were spending vast amounts on rugby players and very little on football. So the inevitable happened with it, sadly. But great club, still have a lot of affection for the club.
And as you know, that's the club that I follow to this date, but purely as a fan these days.
Well, Stuart White, who's a friend of mine, who's...
Of course.
Yeah, well, his father was on the board there, and what a gentleman he was.
He had a very good reputation there.
I think in the old days, the people on the board were very much gentlemen who wanted to help. They didn't want the face on the back of the paper. And he was absolutely brilliant to work with. He really was.
I think the only story I know about Stuart's father was apparently when he was nearing his bereavement, County at the time were once again in financial difficulties, as you allude to. And it said to Stuart, apparently, you need to go out and find that potato man. And everybody said, what are you talking about? What do you mean, the potato man? He said, there's a man close by who's involved with potatoes, and they are quite a sizable company, and he just gives some money to sponsorship and sport. And he's the sort of person you need to get into Stockport County. So one of the former chairmen, a guy called Alwyn Thompson, and I, one day pedalled off to this potato factory and found this guy called Richard Park. And a few months later, he was appointed chairman of the club.
Good.
It just shows we all listen to each other.
Well, I think we do. And what people really don't understand, sometimes I don't miss the games, believe it or not, even under this, but I do miss the people.
Yeah.
We all get together. Sometimes you learn more prior to the game than actually watching the player in the game. You know, you learn what kind of lad he is, where he's from, what his parents are like. It's amazing what you pick up inside the fraternity, which is scouting, you know.
Well, I know some of the players, obviously not all the players. There's no way I could know all the players that you've looked at in your time, but I know one that's a personal one that I think is a phenomenal player that you spotted yourself. But before I mention that person's name, tell us about some of the players that you have scouted, and who do you regard possibly as one of your biggest successes?
There was loads really, but if you look at the ones that I took in a long time ago. I played in Wales in the Welsh League, and I got a whisper that there was a guy playing at Llandudno that was quite good, a goalkeeper. So I went to look at him, and it was Neville Southall.
Oh, very good.
And he was excellent on the day. And within 3 months of that, a personal friend who I'd played with at Northwich Vicks was manager at Winsford United. He said, hey, we've just taken this keeper. Unbelievable. I said, what's his name? He said, Neville Southall. So I recommended him to Blackpool, who I was working for at the time. and they couldn't take him because they had 2 international keepers, McAllister and Ian Hesford. So I rung a mate at Bury. They signed him for 10 grand and sold him for 150 grand within 3 months, I think, or 6 months.
And the rest is history with Neville.
Oh, he was different class. I mean, he still looked the same then. He looked as though he'd just come off the bin wagon. But when it came to being a keeper, and his feet were brilliant. He was way before his time with that. Ashley Williams is another one of mine. I took him on a free from Hensford. And he's had a great career. And Ricky Lambert I took from Blackpool on a free transfer and sold him to Stockport, and the rest history with Ricky. You know, he did brilliantly.
Ashley and Ricky are both firmly in my heart as former Stockport County players.
Lovely lad as well. Both of them lovely lads, you know, and it matters in the end, you know. And some people as well that you see, and when I was at Sheffield United, Neil Warnock was the manager at the time, and Neil was very pro-English rather than bringing too many foreign players in. But I used to go to the Toulon tournament every year, which is a 2-week tournament in the south of France, and everybody was going mad about a Brazilian called Fred. Man City signed him in there, but I fancied somebody better than him, a lad called Fernandinho. He played as a winger at the time, believe it or not, but he was so English. He likes to put a foot in. He has a big heart, could play, decent mobility. I think we could have signed him for 2 million, but they didn't. And he went to Shakhtar Donetsk, sadly broke his leg, but when he came back to City for 30 million or whatever, he's been phenomenal. I just love him. His attitude is just the same now as it was then. Steve Mandanda at Marseille, he was another one I wanted to sign, the keeper. He's been in Marseille's goal for God knows how many years now. N'Golo Conte, I recommended him when he was at Caen in France.
That was the person I was thinking of.
Yeah, he's a good player, N'Golo. And Luka Modric, I went to Dynamo Zagreb to watch somebody else, and I said, forget him, there's a kid here, 17/18, and I think he's going to be some player. And I think he has. He's done okay, hasn't he? There were lots, really, that you see over the years, and some that you know are not really within our spectrum in terms of finance. But, you know, it doesn't take away the pleasure of seeing one and recognising one and thinking that, you know, they've done well in the career, which is, and the way they portray themselves matters as well for me. And I think sometimes it's more important what kind of lad he is than how good he is.
I'm just listening to some of the earlier grassroots stories where you spotted players and things, and I'm just thinking, only this week I had a conversation with a personal friend of mine, a guy called Mervyn Payne, who's just released, or republished, I should say, a book by a gentleman called Phil Staley.
I know Phil Staley well.
Well, I thought you would do. He did a book called "Get Those Sheep Off the Pitch," which I happened to get involved with the first publishing of it, and more importantly, I've read it. And the stories about non-league football, I'm just thinking there must be the same world that Gill's operated in.
Oh, believe me, Phil was a star, a real star, a one on his own, a real character. I loved him, and we actually a long time ago went. Way before I went to Macclesfield, a few years before, I went to watch Mosley play somebody in what would be the trophy. And there was this ginger-haired kid running around like an absolute head of the ball. He tackled everything. He headed He's only about 5'8", skinny as hell. Steve Wood, he was called. And I said to Sammy McElroy when we got together, we need to sign Steve Wood. And he said, Phil Staley's got him. And Phil charged us 200 quid for him. He wasn't playing him. But we took him and he got into our first team. He played in League One and scored 12 goals as a midfielder in League One. Really? He was, you know, he was what sums up non-league. I think he had a heart like a bucket and he could play a bit as well. He scored the winner at Stevenage with a curling free kick the last minute. We'd been down to 10 men because Johnny Askey had been a naughty boy and got sent off, which is not unusual for John. And he curled one in the last minute. Well, the whole world erupted. It was brilliant, They were one of our major rivals, obviously, at the time.
Now, I remember the last time I'd seen you prior to today was when you kindly invited me over to your house. A good few years back now.
Yeah,
but I just remember being, it was in a world, and it was like a schoolboy's dream. You just had a room which would be your study, and you had screen after screen after screen, and you could switch between screens, watching different players, watching the same player, different matches, and your attention to detail was phenomenal. I guess you still got that set up at home now, have you?
I have. Good job somebody, gave me the time to learn to use the thing. I'm not technologically brilliant, but I do think if you don't get on the bus, you get left behind. And people moan about too many analysts, not enough scouts. I think there should be an amalgam of the two. I think it's vital to stats. You can't live on stats. I think gut feeling takes precedence, but I think stats do help you get to that gut feeling sometimes if you look at it. And why would you throw away I listen to everybody and try and sift what they say, and you'd be amazed. Some people you think you'd never get something off of giving you the best things you've worked with. It's amazing. I think you should listen to everybody and sift it.
And you've got your own bespoke software package, but I think certainly from my times working in sports education in recent years, you quite often get people from Y-Scout coming along and other sort of big brand names in the analyst software package world. Is everything you use just your own proprietary stuff now, or do you use any of the big brand stuff?
No, now and again I do, because obviously I'm not at Blackburn Rovers anymore. I don't have access to their Opta things. To be fair, Lee Jameson, who invented Scout 7 and initialized it, when he left, Opta took over, and Lee's now starting a new thing called Insight 7, which looks at all under 23 players worldwide. And it's a leg up within the business. They will find them, but it takes you so long to find them. If they're put in front of you, and then you can look at them and justify them yourself, it's a hell of a leg up. And that, other than the COVID, that would be going really well for him now, because he's a very, very bright man.
Right, I'll have to look out for that one.
Yeah, Insight 7 it's called.
And people talk about themselves being scouts, and people talk about themselves being analysts. I seem to come across more and more people that have got that title now, but there's very few people that come across with your wealth of experience. But how does the world start? How do people start on that journey if they want to embark upon a career as a scout, perhaps from being a young person or 18, 19, 20 years of age?
I think today they can go through some of your expertise in terms of college education. Nothing teaches you to spot a player. You can spend
Absolutely
20
agree.
years doing all the courses God sends, but I think you're born with spotting a player, basically. And
I agree.
There's a lot of people that you deal with that have had very high profile jobs, and I wouldn't trust them at all with a player. And there's other people that have virtually done it for nothing, and you'd know if they said this kid can play, you'd know he can play. Yeah. So I wouldn't judge who's in the higher echelons as always the best.
I understand. So I've said that I genuinely want to go out of my way. I want to renew contact with you. I'm always interested in following where you go next, but to the world that's out there and to Adrian Stores to educate him, what do you believe the next step should be for Gill? What would you ideally like to look for in terms of your next career move? Because I know you're always going to want to stay in this industry.
Yes, I am. I'm addicted, I'm afraid. So basically, I would like to work more from home. I will go to games, but the days where I traveled 200 miles and thought, excuse me 1 second.
It's absolutely no problem.
Oh dear. Yes. I just will go to games, and I think it's essential to go to games because of what we've spoken about prior, that you do get more information sometimes prior to the game than you do, actually watching the game. So I'll just turn that off, make sure we don't get another one. There we go.
Yes. I was trying to detect the dialects on your ringtone. I was thinking, is that the Arabic that you say you've forgotten?
Yes, it is. It's an Arabic chant from. I love the Arabic, and as I say, I enjoyed my time there. The other thing I think is that I'd like to do consulting for people. There's so many now. Eventually, the English players are going to Germany and other places and doing well. I look at our under-23s. It's a little bit like netball, some of the games. It's non-physical, which I don't like. I think FIFA, the FA and the UEFA have got a lot to answer for in terms of taking the physicality away. They've also taken the common sense away with VAR and the offside law and handball. I just think it's time that football people got back in control rather than people who wear suits and have never kicked a ball. And I think it's essential that they do get into the people who know the job, like that's why Brian Clough never got the England job, wasn't it?
So they say, that's right.
Yeah.
He's still. I still remember vividly the night he brought Nottingham Forest to Stockport County, and it's not a fake story. This is a genuine story, and the applause he got from the home crowd at Stockport, even though he was the opposition manager, it says a lot about how in many people he was going to be the people's choice, wasn't he?
Oh, without doubt, and I've spoken to his lad quite a few times when he was managing at Burton Albion, and
he's just taken a job at Mansfield, hasn't he?
He has, and good luck to him.
Yeah.
There's no easy management jobs today, and finance as it is, and with the COVID, makes it even more difficult, I think. And
so, in terms of low-hanging fruit, Gil, so stick on the point. What would be the ideal appointment for you now?
Well, I'd like to be a consultant. I don't mind doing several types of consultancy, in terms of assessing players they've already thought they'd like, or trying to find ones that they've not thought of as yet. As I say, as long as it caters around where I am at home mainly, it would suit me better today. I will go out. I do go out because you need to go out, but I don't want to be chasing all over Europe and Africa again. And I did so many countries over the 5 years at Sheffield. I was European and World Scout for them, and we did Peru for one game, would you believe? So that was great, about 58 hours for one game. But it did open your eyes. We did virtually all of Europe, quite a lot of sub-Saharan Africa, a lot of Saudi Arabia, that kind of area as well, and Turkey. As you know, I love Turkey, and it was an experience you'd never forget, Adrian. It really was.
Well, my concluding comment is one which I've said to you before, and you give me the same answer every single time I ask you. But when are we going to bring out that Gil Prescott book?
Oh, I've got to learn to write first. I mean, that basically. I think I'd be a little bit shy about doing that. Don't jump over yourself, because I've not done enough to really write books, I don't think.
Well, Gil, that's the end of our formal recording as such. I'm going to go out of my way, to try and find something for you. That's one of my objectives for later in the week. I've already got some clients that I'd like to talk to you about to see whether or not anything strikes a chord. But what I will do is talk to you about each and every club before I go in, jumping in with my size 9s. And you can say, yes, that could fit the bill for me, or no, stay well clear of that one.
Yeah, they could, mind you, if you could be saying the other way around, God, stay clear of him. It's just.
Gil, I do thank you very much for taking part on the interview. You're not going to disappear now, but I will stop the formal recording now. So thank you very much for taking part on today's vlog.
I've really enjoyed it. Thank you, Adrian.